Hi, my name is Bob Dittmer, and this is Explorations in Public Relations. This short series of video presentations allows us to explore and illuminate the practice and the profession of public relations. Today, we're continuing our discussion with Rob Norris from Cummins, Inc. about the practice of using Six Sigma to help efficiencies and productivities in companies. Today, we're going to expand upon our original discussion to talk about how one might use Six Sigma in improving processes in public relations. Rob, thanks for joining us again.
Pleasure.
Now, you're actually working on a project as a part of your Six Sigma training and applying the principles of Six Sigma to something that you do in public relations. Can you talk to us about the problem or the challenge that you've identified, and then tell us a little bit about how you're going about using Six Sigma to examine that?
Sure. Our problem, of course, is that we have become a global company. Cummins now gets 52% of its revenue from overseas, which is okay because we're making a lot of our engines and selling them overseas too. So, you know, it's all to the good. Now, the difficulty is we've got a problem now with languages, time zones, cultures, communicators. People are always going into and out of jobs. Who knows what's going on? And my job, my assignment in this project is to see if I can't come up with a mechanism that would enable us to communicate more smoothly throughout the company, culture to culture, find out what the problems are in communication, identify them, see what the requirements are, and come up with a mechanism to overcome them.
Now, that is a task that really every one of us in public relations is either going to face or is facing already, as you are. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're going about this using the principles of Six Sigma? Well,
the first thing we look for is what we call the voice of the customer. All right, and that's basically you ask. You interview people who are communicators. You interview their managers and say, are your needs being met? You send out surveys. I sent out a survey to 500 random managers in the company saying, have you ever had a problem with communications that cost you a customer or your reputation? And conversely, did you ever have a good experience? And what were the circumstances of that? And then you gather all of that in and divide it out into simple statements, no more than about 200 characters per statement. Put those on labels, put those on sticky notes, and post them on the wall. I ended up with about 170 of them. And the idea is that you divide them between things that show you the image of the way communications is now and the requirements, the way they want communications to become. And then you do two what you call KJs, named for a Japanese anthropologist who developed this technique. He said what you do is first you put the image ones up and cull them until you're down to about 30 and then group them. You do this by gut. You don't do it by logic, but by gut. You put them together in groups and say, okay, now do these things relate to each other? Do we see any common themes here? And group that, and then see if there are any higher common themes that you can get, going one step up the ladder of abstraction. And when you're done, you should be able to say, aha, it comes down to three problems. We are too US-centric. There are some mechanical difficulties that get in the way. In that we've got some time zone and language problems, and you know we've got and we don't know who to talk to from place to place and time to time because we don't have enough up-to-date information to gather. Okay, now I understand. Now it comes to the requirements. What do you want to see? And that's the one I'm in the process of doing right now.
Now, you do this process as a part of a team, is that not right?
You absolutely do it as part of a team. You should have 6, 7 people on a team, however many you feel you need. Most of mine are overseas, which is a problem for me because with a lot of this, you ought to be in the same room. So there are ways around that. There are ways that you can do it online, by telephone. It's cumbersome, but it can be done. Or you can take those members of your team who are in the U.S. and a couple of other people and say, hey, help me out today, and I'll get back with the rest of the team later. The important thing is that you stay in contact with the team and that they stay involved.
And your team indeed has people from a number of different countries. Just kind of tell us the composition of your team.
Well, I've got 3 from the UK, I have 1 from Beijing, 1 from Pune, India, 1 from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I actually have 2 in the US.
Just the 2?
Just the 2, right.
And what is it that you hope to get out of this when the project is finally done, other than a colored belt?
Well, I hope to have, as I say, a mechanism, and you're not supposed to anticipate the outcome, because you ruin it if you do that. Let the data lead you. Let the data lead you. And in this case, it is not hard data the way the engineers have it, but that's all right. We don't work with hard data, but it's still data. And you work with it, and we will decide, okay, are there things in this that we just can't do? It's too expensive or it's out of our scope. It would be nice to have, but we can't do it. But what can we do? Can we organize, for example, a group of international communicators through internal social media? Can there be a watering hole we all go to so that we know each other and can converse with each other and overcome some of these problems? Can we understand the cultural differences such that we don't schedule anything on a holiday in India, which would be like somebody in India scheduling something over Christmas here? We wouldn't like that. Well, of course, they would not like it either. We need to be sensitive to that if we're going to act globally.
And so if I can summarize the process as you would apply it in public relations, it's very similar to any kind of research that we would do in public relations, but you're trying to identify a problem and then figure out what the variables that create the problem are, and then figure out which variables you can influence and influence those variables. Is that a succinct way to say it?
That is exactly the way to say it. You can't cure every variable. The idea is to isolate the ones that make the biggest difference, concentrate your efforts on them, and the results, for Cummins at least, have been outstanding.
Well, it sounds like it's a fascinating project, and I'm envious of you being able to just execute that on such a global scale. Rob, thank you for joining us and helping us understand not just Six Sigma, but how Six Sigma can actually be practiced in public relations.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today as we discussed Six Sigma and its application in public relations. And thanks to our guest, Rob Norris, who spent 2 sessions with us illuminating the idea of Six Sigma. Please stay tuned to this YouTube channel as we bring you more explorations in public relations, where we try to illuminate and explore the practice and profession of public relations.